Let me ask you something. Are you going really heavy with low reps because you think it's the only way to build muscle, or are you going all out with high reps in the hope that you carve out some muscle through endless burnouts? The truth is that both methods work, but it's not about the reps themselves, it's how you approach them. So stick around because I'm going to show you how to use high reps and low reps to maximize your growth. Because I've had lots of comments recently saying that you should use high reps, you should use low reps, and I never really state that there is a right or wrong answer, even in any topic I speak about, but I always state that there's a better option. And this is going to be one of them videos where I'm not stating one is better than the other, but I'm going to be showing how to use both to optimise your gains. So if we haven't met before, I'm Lockie, a final year sport and exercise science student at Oxford Brookes University. I've got over 3 years of resistance training experience and a lot more science experience, as I'm now a published sports science researcher. And I've got a passion for unpacking the science behind fitness. So whether you're trying to work out how to get the most out of your sessions or you're stuck in a plateau, this video will teach you how to optimise your hypertrophy by choosing the right rep ranges, and more importantly, using them the right way, because it's not necessarily the rep ranges that will elicit growth, it's how you're actually using your reps within them ranges. So in today's video, I'm going to explain why both high and low reps can work for hypertrophy, the real reason some people swear by heavy lifting while others live for the burn of high reps, and how you can combine both methods strategically to break through plateaus and build serious muscle. Alright, let's get into the basics. Hypertrophy or muscle growth isn't about one magic rep. It's about creating the right muscle stimulus to grow the fibres. So let's break it down. Using a low rep range of around 1 to 6 reps targets your fast twitch type 2 muscle fibres. These are the big, powerful ones responsible for strength and explosive power. But here's the thing, low reps don't create as much overall fatigue or metabolic stress, which a lot of people advocate for being important drivers for muscle growth. I see that they have a place, but I don't necessarily think that they indicate muscle size improvements. There are lots of people, for example, Mike Israetel is probably one of the biggest proponent for metabolic stress indicating growth. But then going on to high reps, so this is like 12 to 20 reps, you target those slow twitch fibers while creating more metabolic stress and time under tension. And yes, that burning sensation that you feel is part of what makes high reps effective for hypertrophy, because that burn is an accumulation of metabolites. And like I said before, lots of people tend to advocate for the use of metabolic accumulation being a critical factor in producing hypertrophy. But this is a debate for another day, so let's carry on with the video. Now this is where some people get it wrong. Some people might say, oh, low reps don't build size, they just build strength. And they say, oh, high reps won't hit the big fibers or the stronger fibers. And that's both wrong. Both rep ranges work to an extent for hypertrophy, you just have to know how to use them properly. So let's pause for a second. Imagine you're squatting and you're doing 4 to 5 reps. Feels great, you're doing really heavy weights and relatively low reps. But then you switch to 15 reps with a moderate weight and you feel a ridiculous burn. What do you think is actually going to cause the most growth? Well, generally it depends on your goal and how you've structured your workouts. But for the most part, both can grow significant amounts of muscle. But like I said, it just depends how you're structuring it across the day. So you can't just say, if you do 5 reps, you're not going to grow muscle, because that's not true. But you also can't say, if you do 15 reps, you're not going to grow muscle, because it's extracting a tiny bit of information, so one set, and making a vast assumption, which is generally a wrong assumption. Now you've noticed I've not included the 8 to 12 standard rep range for hypertrophy. That's because I don't want to cover what is seen as the standard rep range for muscle growth. I want to explain to you lot how you can actually use different rep ranges outside of the standard 8 to 12 in order to still grow muscle. But before we start talking about how you can combine high reps and low reps for hypertrophy, let's talk about some common misconceptions about rep ranges, because I see these get thrown around the gym community all the time. So myth number 1 is that heavy sets are only for muscle strength, not muscle size. And this is one of the most persistent myths that I hear all the time. The vast majority of uneducated people within the fitness community think that doing high weights in 1 to 6 rep ranges, you'll only see strength gains. And while it's true that using this rep range with high weights and low intensity is fantastic for improving maximal strength, it's not the whole story. All it takes is to look at professional powerlifters. You can see they are massive. Why do you think they have big muscles when they only train for high 1 rep max exercises? It makes no sense. So here's why this is an absolute myth. So when you lift heavy, you're primarily engaging type 2 muscle fibers, which are the largest and most powerful fibers in your body. These fibers have the greatest potential for growth, and research shows that training with heavy loads close to failure maximizes their recruitment. And heavy lifting creates significant mechanical tension on the muscle, which is one of the primary drivers of hypertrophy. Even with fewer reps, the sheer force applied to the muscle fibers sends a strong signal for muscle growth. And by incorporating heavy compound lifts like squats, bench presses and deadlifts in the 4 to 6 rep range, can build a strong foundation of muscle and strength simultaneously. But the key is to ensure proper form and work close to failure to fully capitalise on this rep range. So while heavy weights and low reps are often associated with strength, they're also an essential tool for building size when programmed strategically. And then the next myth I see all the time, and if you haven't guessed what it is by now, I'll tell you, is that high reps with low weight is only for muscular endurance. A lot of people think it's just for like marathon runners, ultra marathon runners, triathlon, things like that. But that's far from the truth. Let me tell you why. Because the time under tension in high rep training creates metabolic stress, which can be a critical driver of hypertrophy. And the burn you feel during high rep sets isn't just discomfort, it's your muscles responding to the buildup of metabolites like lactate, which signal the body to adapt and grow. And when you push high rep sets close to failure, your body recruits additional muscle fibers, including type 2 fibers, to keep the movement going. This means high rep training isn't just about endurance, it can also stimulate significant growth when done correctly. And on top of that, high rep training with moderate weights is also easier on the joints compared to low rep max efforts. This makes it a great option for accessory lifts like lateral raises and bicep curls, where you want to focus on isolating muscles without risking injuries. But winding back a bit, let's not forget about the middle hypertrophy rep range of 8 to 12 reps. Because a lot of people get misled and think that because this is commonly referred to as the hypertrophy rep range, that it's the only rep range you should be in to build muscle size. But that does mean that the sweet spot is using strength, volume and metabolic stress will be beneficial for most people. So you can see that using different types of rep ranges will be beneficial to you in the long run. But honestly, the whole rep range debate is just so outdated. Think about it, your muscles don't know or care whether you're doing 6 or 15 reps. They just respond to the stimulus that you give them, how you give it to them, and how often. It's like arguing whether chicken breast or salmon is best for protein. Both work, just in different ways, and it's how you use them. Right, so here's the bit you've been waiting for. How can you use high reps and low reps to benefit your hypertrophy in your training? So we're going to do this strategically and first talk about low reps, move on to mid reps, and then finish off with high reps. So let's start with step 1, that is low reps for compound movements. So compound lifts like squat, bench press and deadlift are cornerstones, or should be, of any hypertrophy program. These multi-joint exercises allow you to recruit multiple muscle groups simultaneously, and this allows you to lift heavier weights than isolation exercises. But not only that, it's also beneficial for improving your strength in your synergist, which are your smaller muscles that surround the bigger muscles to generate power, and your stabilizer muscles, which often don't get targeted or encouraged to grow during isolation hypertrophy movements. So why do low reps actually work for compounds? So the 4 to 6 rep range is ideal for building strength, as it emphasizes heavy loads while maintaining control and proper form, and lifting heavier weights forces your muscles, tendons and nervous system to adapt, creating a strong foundation for overall growth. And compound lifts in this range target your type 2 muscle fibers, which are the largest and most powerful fibers with the greatest potential for hypertrophy. And like I said previously, exercises like squats and deadlifts demand balance and coordination, activating stabilizing muscles that aren't typically engaged during machine-based or isolation work. So let's give you a couple examples. So for a leg day, you could start with barbell back squats for 4 sets of 4 to 6 reps. Use a weight that challenges you but still allows you to maintain proper depth and technique. Or for a chest focused day, include barbell bench presses in the same 4 to 6 rep range to overload the pecs whilst also engaging the triceps and the shoulders. Because not only does that help to grow and stimulate your chest, it also primes your triceps and shoulders for the extra exercises further on in the session. So if you're doing a push day, your triceps and shoulders will already be primed to start working hard. So let's go on to step 2, which is using high reps for isolation movements. So isolation exercises allow you to target specific muscle groups that allow you to focus on detail work. These movements are perfect for the 12 to 20 rep range as they increase metabolic accumulation and time under tension, which are both extremely high drivers for hypertrophy. So why do high reps actually shine for isolation movements? So the burn you feel during high rep sets isn't just pain, it's a sign of metabolic stress, which triggers muscle growth by signaling your body to adapt to the workload. And also high rep work with moderate weights reduces the strain on your joints, making it ideal for accessory movements like lateral raises or tricep pushdowns. But on top of that, high rep sets create a pump, which not only feels amazing, but also helps to deliver nutrients to muscles for recovery and growth. And a great use case scenario for this would be performing dumbbell bicep curls for 2 or 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps, focusing on a slow and controlled tempo to maximize time under tension. Or for a shoulder day, you could include cable lateral raises in the 12 to 15 rep range, emphasizing strict form to isolate the delts without involving the traps. Now, one thing I would just say for high rep movements is they create a lot of fatigue, but not necessarily a lot of mechanical tension. So I would use these only where you need them, because a lot of people might struggle to grow, and a great sign that something you're missing out on could be the accumulation of metabolites is that you're not sore after a workout. It doesn't necessarily mean you're not growing, but if you aren't growing and you're also not getting sore, probably trying to get sore is a good thing to do. I know it might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but when I struggled with a really deep plateau, I wasn't growing, I wasn't increasing my weights, and I wasn't sore after my sessions. So then I started training with a stretch emphasis, longer time under tension, higher reps, but also trying to get sore within my workouts, and I got out of my plateau so quickly. So that's just something to consider, that I wouldn't necessarily use high rep sets all the time. And then for step 3, which is the final step, is programming for volume and effort. So volume, which is the total amount of weight lifted within a session, is one of the most critical factors for hypertrophy. Whether you're doing 5 or 15 reps, the goal is to accumulate enough total work complete without overtraining your muscles, but also reaching sets where you are engaging and producing more mechanical tension. So why do volume and effort actually matter? So volume is calculated as sets times reps times weight. For example, if you squat 100 kilos for 5 reps across 4 sets, your total volume for that exercise is 2,000 kilograms. Whether you increase the sets, reps, or weight, what matters is progressively challenging your muscles over time. And then research consistently shows that hypertrophy occurs when you train close to failure, regardless of the rep range. This means that the last rep in a set should feel challenging, with proper form breaking down within 1 to 2 additional reps if you were to continue. And while pushing to failure is effective, doing it on every set can lead to burnout easily. So aim for 60 to 80% of your sets to be close to failure, while leaving 20 to 40% at 2 to 3 reps shy of failure for recovery. And for an example application, you can use progressive overload to gradually increase volume over time. For instance, in week 1, you do squat 4 sets of 5 reps at 100 kilos, which is 2,000 kilos in total. Week 2, you squat 4 sets of 6 reps at 1,000 kilos. That's an extra 400 kilos total, making it 2,400. But then week 3, you can squat 5 sets of 5 reps at 100 kilos, making it 2,500 kilograms. And for accessory work, Prioritise effort over load. Push bicep curls or tricep pushdowns close to failure while keeping total volume in check. So here's what it all boils down to. There is no best rep range for hypertrophy. So if you ever see anyone in the comments or in person saying there is a best rep range for hypertrophy, I personally give you permission to tell them to shut the up, because that's such a lie. Because you should be using a mix of low, moderate and high rep ranges to elicit hypertrophy, but to also not encourage too much fatigue to take place, as well as metabolic accumulation, but also to try and keep your joints safe and not cause any injuries when doing higher weights. And on top of that, doing a mix of rep ranges will help to target more muscle fibers, which in turn will increase your mechanical tension and then optimizing your results. So you need to think of rep ranges like a toolbox. Each tool or rep range has its purpose, but using them all together will build something incredible. So to recap, low reps build strength and recruit type 2 fibers. High reps increase metabolic stress and time under tension, and both can work for hypertrophy if you train close to failure. Use low reps for compounds, high reps for isolations, and balance volume of effort to maximize growth. And something I've not stated and I've not really spoken about too much is that if you do your set, let's say you do 12 reps, could you then split that set in half and call that a warm-up? Is the answer yes? Okay, well then split that set in half and increase the weight. That way you don't need to put excessive unnecessary fatigue on your muscles by doing them additional reps at the start, but you also don't need to waste time doing them extra reps at the end. You've halved the reps, increased the weight, but kept the level of mechanical tension and proximity to failure the same, which means you'll experience the same amount of growth but less fatigue. So you may even experience more growth. That's just a little nugget of information. I'm going to expand on that in another video. So what is your go-to rep range? Make sure to let me know in the comments and let me know what you think. Do you use or should you use a variety of rep ranges, or should you stick within that 8 to 12 rep range? Make sure to let me know in the comments. If you like this video, make sure to smash the thumbs up, and if you want to see more science-backed fitness advice, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you get notified every time I post a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.